Welcome to Am I the Bleep?
Back at it again with the podcast.
Back at it. What was that meme from like 12 years ago? Damn, it must be Damn Daniel, right? Like that has to
Damn
be
Daniel.
back at
Well,
it
actually,
again
it's
with
not. It's
the.
not. It's not Damn Daniel. It's Damn Daniel.
I feel
And
like.
anyone who remembers that meme is thinking to themselves, "That was a pretty good Damn Daniel impression."
Do you think people listening to this will remember? Like the North remembers?
Yeah, if everyone listening to the show is 8 years or younger.
Yeah, yeah. So I realized that one of the things we talk a lot about on the show is getting context, but I realize like people don't know our history, and I think we should tell like a fun fact about us growing up together. That way people can get to know us a bit better, so they know, well, one, why we're the authority on assholes, and two,
Because it
that
takes one to know one.
exactly.
Sure.
But two, just like to get to know us a bit better.
Okay.
So I have a fun fact
All
that I
right.
think, and it's just like, just a feel good story. So
I'm here for it. Let's hear it.
lay it on me.
Yeah.
So when we were younger, so I met John. I must have been 12, grade 6. We met
Mm-hmm.
in middle school, and
Yeah.
we bring this up a lot. But we went to Jewish school growing up, and school was a lot longer than most other schools. School started at like 8:15, did at 4:30. By the time you get home and do your homework for everything, and you're 12 and you study for your bar mitzvah, you don't have time to hang out.
Yeah.
Also, my parents were very overprotective, and my mom, as my parents were divorced, lived like 45 minutes away. So I almost never got a weekend. So asking for the weekend and getting to hang out with my new friend, John, was virtually impossible. But there was one fateful day where John Rom invited me to go see like a wrestling event at Cineplex. And for whatever reason, of all the things that I was allowed to go to and not
Oh
allowed to go
God.
to, my dad was like, I understand that one. And my mom was like, sure, I'll just take my two younger brothers that weekend. So we ended up seeing, I believe it would have been during the school year. So that would have been like a WrestleMania or a Survivor Series or something like that.
Yeah, maybe a SummerSlam. Who can say? Oh, it was during the school year? Then
It
yeah,
must have been.
it could have been a Survivor Series or something like that.
And one, I remember the crazy ass energy in this room,
Yeah.
packed Cineplex, back when movie theaters were really, really, really cool. And here
Mhm.
you're watching the pay-per-view event on the big screen with your best friends, and like you're getting your large pop and it's unlimited, so you keep going back for refills, but then you have to pee more, and then like you miss like the in-between commercial things that are going on.
Yeah.
And the thing I remember was for 2 weeks after this event, every day I'd be like, "Hey, John," and he would just do like the "You can't see me" thing almost every single day for literal weeks. Now, for me, I appreciate it. As a Jonathan, it's nice to know like there's a famous Jonathan out there.
You're referencing Jonathan Cena.
Exactly,
Yeah,
Jonathan Emmanuel Cena.
Jonathan Emmanuel Cena.
Um,
Before he was a meme, I'll add. He
yes,
was
way
he was
before.
just a regular old wrestler before he was just a meme.
I think it was the year after that the telephone bit came out, where a guy kept calling his wife and being like, "Hey, miss, can you see me?" Well, you will see him this Sunday night at WrestleMania, John Cena, like that kind of thing.
Oh
Um,
my
but this
God.
was 2 solid weeks of John pretending he was that John at school. Now, he didn't wear the chains. He wasn't part of the chain gang or
No, I
anything
did
like
have a
that.
hat. I had a
He
hat
did
with the
have a hat.
John Cena logo, hustle, loyalty, respect.
Hustle, loyalty, respect.
Love that hat. Wore it literally always, never took it off.
It's true.
Um,
And now you know.
yeah, it's crazy how whereas some kids get internal aggression from all the pubertal changes and hormones that they're going through. I just got super into wrestling and seeing oiled up men just throw each other. off of top ropes. And let's be honest, isn't that just more wholesome?
I was trying to think of like an assholesome thing to say, but it didn't work. Like my brain stopped, and I'm like, "Oh, this is gonna be gold," and then it didn't happen. But
Hey
those
kids,
were the days.
if there are any kids listening to this, leave your aggression in the ring.
Yes.
Yeah, leave it in the squared circle, you know?
Remember when that off-brand wrestling TNA came out and it had like the hexagon ring, and I was like, "What
Yeah,
are
it
they?"
blew everyone's mind.
I'm like, "But how are they gonna go off the rope? Like, which rope are they gonna land on?" Because I have no clue about anything to do with geometry. I'm like, "But if like you throw them against the rope, they're always gonna end up on the turnbuckle." But
So
everything had a parallel side, and it didn't really
we
matter.
went to a wrestling event, like a live wrestling event, that was like one of the minor circuit wrestling things, if you remember that. And I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, not knowing who anyone is really takes the wind out of your sails when you're watching wrestling, pro wrestling. Because it turns out I didn't really like the wrestling part of wrestling. I just was there for the drama.
Yeah, when they're like, "And Zoomer Boomer goes off the ropes," you're
Yeah.
like,
Who?
I don't give a rat's ass about Zoomer Boomer. I want John Cena.
Speaking of Zoomer boomers, do you have any am I the asshole post that we can read, or am I starting on this one?
No, no, no. We do. I don't appreciate that you called me a Zoomer Boomer.
No, the
Um,
posters are, well, I guess we'll decide if the poster is a Zoomer boomer or not.
hey, leave leave the bias at the door, man. Check your story. But yeah, you can read it first this time. That's
All
only
right.
fair.
Okay.
You go ahead.
Um, am I the asshole for cutting the trip with my wife short after I learned that my son's step grandparents weren't feeding him properly? My wife and I got married months ago. We didn't get a chance to go on a honeymoon, but then I planned a trip for us as a couple. I originally was planning on leaving my 9-year-old son with his regular babysitter. However, my wife insisted that we leave him with her parents. I agreed, but was hesitant because my son has dietary restrictions due to medical problems, and my in laws commented on his eating habits as quote unquote spoiled. I sent him there and gave them a lot of what food he should be fed. The
I
fourth
think
day
I
of the
think wait,
trip.
hold up. Normally I won't interrupt. I think I sent him there and gave them a list of what food he should be fed.
Okay, sorry. So he wrote lost, and I had to make a call
It's
if it
okay.
was
It's
a
okay.
lot or a list.
You did
Yeah,
well.
gave them a list of what food he should be fed. The fourth day of the trip, he video called me and told me he'd been eating only snacks and hadn't eaten a warm meal in days. I was puzzled, and I asked if his grandparents didn't cook any of his regular meals on the list, and he said no. They just gave him snacks. I was absolutely livid, especially after I contacted mother-in-law and after she told me she wasn't a personal cook and that it wasn't her fault I spoiled my son. I cut the trip short and went home immediately. My wife was upset, saying instead of cutting the long waited for trip short, I should let the babysitter take care of feeding him. We had a fight, and she told me that her parents owed me nothing and that I always ruin things for us. Now I ruined the trip she paid for. Hmm. What an interesting post considering who's on this podcast.
Yeah, let
Uh,
me stroke my beard for a few minutes here.
yeah, you know what? I gotta ask, Johnny, are they an asshole or are they just being your dad?
Oh man,
For context, Jonathan has all the allergies, and it's
all of
not
them.
fair to start listing them because they change, they're amorphous and they change, but they're very real and they're very dangerous. And as any good parent should, Jonathan's father has really gone out of his way to make sure Jonathan doesn't die of asphyxiation. But that also causes some there's consequences to that I'll let Jonathan get into.
Yeah, so as somebody who lives with all the allergies, and like a lot of them are anaphylactic, and sometimes new ones pop up. Like I was never allergic to mustard, and then one day I ate mustard, and like woke up in the middle of the night with my eyes swollen shut and blood on my arms from scratching in my sleep, and like all of that stuff. As someone who lives with allergies, especially as a kid in another environment, if you have a list of the food you can and can't eat, that's important to give to people who you're staying with just so they can know what's up. And especially in the States, I can imagine an anaphylactic reaction or a dietary concern issue is going to set you back a few shekels, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's like more than reasonable to give a list. And this whole idea about, well, like they're spoiled because they have dietary restrictions. Now, there are different variation. There are different, we'll call them levels, I guess, of like dietary restrictions. And John, you know a lot more about this, but there are people who just like, there's like an intolerance to certain food. Like somebody can be intolerant to gluten. But there are also people who can have like a severe allergic reaction to gluten, similar to what you would see from like a peanut allergy. Same things with like a lactose intolerance versus a milk allergy. Um, so, I mean, we'd want to ask a bit more about what specifically the dietary restrictions are. But if there's medical problems, which they write here, because my son has dietary restrictions due to medical problems, there's probably something going on. Like, we also don't want this poor 9-year-old having diarrhea for the entire time the family is gone. Like, that's also not a comfortable situation to be in,
Sure.
especially if the grandparents are looking at this kid as spoiled. Maybe, like, they have a weird relationship. Um, so yeah, this definitely like there's that GIF or GIF,
GIF,
this
hopefully.
GIF of like the dog who's just like shaking and has flashbacks, and that's how I feel right now, a little bit.
So off in your heart,
My
what
heart,
out of 10, 10 being like vehicular manslaughter and one
yes,
being no one did anything wrong.
yeah, everybody knows
Uh,
that scale. It's the golden rule.
that scale's going to roll. Where does this fall? What do you think? What do you think? What's your initial reaction?
Um, sorry, give me 1 second. I think there's okay. So initially, original poster says they want to leave their 9-year-old son with the regular babysitter, who probably has dealt with these things in the past. The wife insisted on leaving him with the parents that caused him issues, and then when there were the issues and the mother-in-law was saying, not the personal chef here, were saying that the wife came back and said, well, just give them to the babysitter. I think cutting the trip short sucks. And if like that's something you've been waiting for, it's like the honeymoon that they never had a chance to have. Obviously, it sucks to cut that short. And maybe there's a way to either like go and come back, unless obviously they're across the world or something. Maybe there's a way to, bring them to the babysitter, but I can understand how that would be a subtle jab. I'd put this at like a I'd put this at like a 3, or and not because I think original post, like obviously if your son is sick because of the parents-in-laws, and you got to make sure they're okay, especially if they're severe, and we don't know how severe they are. But I don't think they ruined the like obviously the trip is ruined, but I don't think the reasons were at all wrong. There was probably a creative solution, and obviously there's some weird tension between the wife and the original poster. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with like a 3 or 4. That's where I feel comfortable. A 3. I'm done giving like these half-assed responses. 3,
Yeah, pick a side.
3.
Okay.
What do you
Yeah,
think?
I mean, I would honestly say that this is a 1 in my books, because I think that I would be more concerned if the dad was just like, "Oh well, this seems
Yes.
like um I'm just checking. No, sorry, I don't want to assume gender. If this parent, who's the biological parent of this kid, is just shrugging their shoulders and saying, "Okay, well, sucks to suck," but there are obviously underlying issues from the stepmom's perspective, which is that her reaction to her now, her stepchild, being put in a position where they can't have a hot meal, they can only eat snacks for the duration of their trip, is to say, well, whatever, like we'll let the babysitter deal with it, is probably not the most parental response that I
Oh, no,
could.
no, no. Like if and that's the thing about these. Am I the asshole refers to the original poster. Now,
Right.
if it was the wife who was saying, like, writing this post,
Higher.
oh yeah, and the truth is, yeah, like the wife was probably at, I don't know, like a 7, I would say, somewhere around there. Like they're being like not good parents, to be honest.
Yeah,
Maybe, yeah,
and you know, from that perspective, I would say that the real thing is that you married someone who maybe doesn't understand the full um responsibility that they've taken on in being this stepmom, because
yes,
there's it's a real job, you know. It's being a parent, whether you're a biological parent or not. You're now this child's parent, and you're responsible legally and also ethically for their safety. So I think that this kid, this biological parent is reacting strongly. But is it an overreaction? Are they being an asshole? I don't think so at all. I think actually I'd be more concerned if they acted the opposite way. Could
yeah.
you maybe communicate better with, like, instead of making it a combative thing? Maybe. But honestly, when it's your kid, I don't really expect anyone to just take it lying down and shrug, you know?
And also, I think I think it's good to have these battles in a relationship kind of early on, because you can definitely see a variance in their values. Because for original poster, yeah, my son is sick and not being fed, and I want to go take care of my son. And the
Yeah.
wife is saying, I that original poster ruined the trip that she paid for.
Yeah.
That's definitely a different way to look at it. But yeah, they're the asshole.
And forget about the grandparents. The grandparents are not doing so hot
Don't
here.
be mean to grandma.
Don't make me wrong. Yeah, you know, and it's very much a question of, I think that both as a professional and just a human being who's going to meet other people's kids in the world, it's on me to respect the way that other people are raising their kids, even if I disagree with it. And it's easy for me to say because I agree with the biological parent here to say they're being assholes. But I think the reason they're being an asshole isn't necessarily because they disagree, but because they are taking advantage of this position they have here as babysitters to act on their disagreement instead of respecting the biological parent. And I think that is a huge asshole thing to do, because it's not your kid. It's just not.
And I guess a good question could be, what food was on the list? You know, if it's like, oh, my child only eats foie gras. Like, maybe spoiled. It would be pretty hard to imagine a world where somebody's allergic to everything except for foie gras. Although, I mean, that'd be pretty sick.
That would be sick.
It would be sick. But if the list is literally like think about what a 9-year-old eats. Like, maybe it's gluten-free pizza. Maybe
Yeah.
it's beef hot dogs that don't have gluten. Maybe it's
We've decided this kid has celiac disease.
yeah, because usually the dietary restrictions due to medical problems gives me the vibe of like a gluten or dairy thing, but I could be
Sure, or
wrong.
anaphylaxis, or
Yeah, it could be anything.
they could have, like, I don't know, PKU. Like, there's all these different ones.
Fair
They
enough.
can have certain fat acids, whatever. The Though I will argue and say it doesn't really matter what was on the list, because if you really felt like you couldn't do what was on the list, say no.
Say no.
Say no. You can just say no, like, and no, I won't do
Oh,
this.
that the grandparents should have said.
Yeah,
Oh, like looking
just
at the list,
refuse to
like
babysit the kid. That's
yeah,
fine. You can do that. You could just say no. Like, obviously that would cause a little bit of a you know,
a kerfuffle.
a courageous conversation. Let's call it, as my girlfriend in HR. But yeah, it's better to say no than to just be like, I'm not doing this. Never mind.
Yeah,
After you've already agreed to do it.
Yeah, and I just want to remind our listeners, this is our first time ever reading this. We're not coming to this with hours of analysis.
Yeah.
John and I are literally just talking through our thoughts, what we think when we initially read it.
Hot off the dome.
Hot off the dome. That was a good
Yeah.
one. That was a good
Thank
one.
you.
Thanks for
It
bringing
was
that
a
one.
good
That
one.
was fire.
A-
Fuego.
And if you disagree with us, and if you think that we're big
Off-
stupid doo-doo heads, and or if you agree with us and you just want to tell us that we did a good job and that we're handsome and we sound good and we're easy listening, just contact us on all of the social media that we're going to plug at the end of the episode. I think we have an email. We're probably going to say that, and
Yeah,
then
we will.
you just let yourself be heard. And if you thought that we did a good job or a bad job, leave us a good review so that we can keep making you angry or making you feel validated in your opinions.
Don't let us know if we're big stupid doo doo heads. I hate how you call it
No,
like
yeah,
it is.
don't. We can't handle
It
that.
it,
Our
it, hurt-
self-esteem
it hurts.
all time low.
But you know what probably hurts more?
What?
This next post.
Bring it.
No, that wasn't my best segue. We'll get better. We'll get better.
We'll get better. You put in the stinger.
Am I the bleep?
I meant like the record. Okay, you know what? Fine, good enough.
Why can't I do a live stinger? I recorded it.
Why even buy the recording one? Fair enough.
You're always calling me out. All right, here we go.
Wow, our self-esteem really is at an all-time low.
Am I the asshole for telling my girlfriend she's not allowed to tell my daughter what to do? I've been with my girlfriend for 3 years, but she only moved in with me 6 months ago. I'm a widower, so I wanted to make sure that our relationship was serious before I was okay with her moving in with me and my daughter. Generally, they get along pretty well. I told my girlfriend at the very beginning of our relationship that I wasn't looking for a stepmom for my daughter. She's old enough that she doesn't need a quote unquote new mom. Last weekend, I went camping with one of my mates for 2 days, and my girlfriend stayed home with my daughter. I knew my daughter was going to a party on Saturday, and I already agreed to it. But when I came back from my camping trip, my daughter complained that my girlfriend told her she had to wash her makeup off and do one that's less quote unquote provocative before she could leave the house. I got angry at my girlfriend and told her she wasn't allowed to order my daughter around and she wasn't allowed to prevent her from doing anything that I already agreed to. We had a huge fight, and since then we barely talked. Am I the asshole in this situation? Quick edit from the poster. Daughter's 16. She doesn't need a babysitter, and my girlfriend isn't my daughter's stepmom or guardian. She's my girlfriend. That's it. That's it. John, where do you land, buddy?
Probably 3 out of 10. A 3, probably.
Why?
Not because of the content, but the way the message was delivered. I think that the original poster is in the right because it is their daughter and they're their parent, and that's just how it is. The girlfriend doesn't supersede whatever the actual parent of this kid says. But I think it's worth asking, why is the girlfriend bothering in the first place? Um, because there's a difference between, your girlfriend having a power trip and your girlfriend being like, I don't want anything to happen to this kid. And I believe that if you want a 16-year-old to be safe, you have to encourage her to be less provocative. Whether that's right or not, the intention in my point is the intention matters, because if your girlfriend was trying to do a nice thing, even if it was the wrong thing, then the response can be different than don't tell her what to do. Like that seems holy. So 3 out of 10. What about you? What do you think?
I don't disagree, but I can imagine the frustration. Like, as like when there's a new parent that comes into a home with especially teenage children,
Yeah.
there's generally this, you use the word power trip, and I'm not sure I'd call it a power trip, but it's pretty close to that, where they're like, okay, I'm with this new kid, I'm in a parental role, and now I'm just going to start laying down rules to build up the parental relationship with them. But what a lot of, I feel, step parents don't do is they don't jump in and, like, try to befriend. Like, she could have done the makeup together with her and, like, gone that way, as opposed to just jumping in and being like, do one that's less provocative, like the rule. So, like, I can imagine the frustration about that situation, especially we don't know, like, original poster's a widower. We don't know if the kid's still going through grief and, like, letting loose a bit, and that's okay too. And she's 16. Like, she's not fully grown, but she's at that point where she's experimenting and trying things out. I think original poster, yeah, I would agree with you, is at a 3, because the reaction could have been a lot more positive. It's like it's in the first 6 months that the girlfriend is now in the home. You can have a really good constructive conversation, even with the daughter, saying, hey, next time she goes to a party, here's how it can look instead. And they didn't do it. It turned into a huge fight. They're barely talking. That's not a good relationship as a result. So I would agree with you. All that 5-minute rant, my power trip was to say, is that I agree with you.
Yeah, you and you have personal experience with this, with people coming into your life, and
I've had all the moms.
Yeah, and that all the moms in the world have on their resume, they have Jonathan Friedman. Yeah. The painful thing about this is that, I think actually grief does play a role. Now, I'm not psychoanalyzing this guy. I'm just saying that, you have been a single parent for
it doesn't
at least 3 years, and 3 years in, your girlfriend is making a move, not necessarily to parents so much as to assert an authority over your kid, maybe for good reasons, maybe for bad reasons, but it's worth exploring. That's it. That's the only thing I would say. It's just worth having a conversation about, like, why everyone got to be so mad all the time. Like, don't react to something like you're a 16-year-old too. That's probably a good life advice. Being 16 is rough, and you don't have to act like you're 16 just because there's a 16-year-old involved in the situation.
Yeah, like, for me to call original poster a 1 out of 10 instead would be, because they're allowed to be upset about that, and they can come home and they could have said to their girlfriend, oh, hey, like, daughter brought up this, and I was wondering, like, what happened from your perspective? Like, what made you feel that it was provocative, or what made you feel that it was inappropriate? How did you talk to her? Like, maybe that was something, like, by digging into it together, they can explore how to deal with that 16-year-old better, and, like, explore how to improve their relationship as parent and girlfriend. I think there's, like, a good that would have been a 1 for me.
Yeah, and it's not moralizing. Like, we're not trying to moralize. We're not trying to say, oh, you should do this for the sake of doing it. It's like, it's against what you're trying to accomplish if you yell at your girlfriend for doing something when you don't really understand what the motivations are,
Yeah, exactly. The original poster literally did to the girlfriend what the girlfriend did to the daughter, in a way.
Yeah.
Not exactly, but pretty darn close.
Yeah.
Pretty damn close.
Do this.
Yes.
Okay, now put in the stinger, and we're not even going to segue. We're not even going to reference the fact. After this, we're not even going to reference the fact that we're doing another one. Just put in the stinger and we'll go right to it. Ready? Stinger. And welcome back.
How'd that go? It's pretty good. Pretty strong.
Thank you. Did you want to do the welcome back?
No, you did great.
You're happy with that? Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Okay,
no.
yeah. Clean. Got it in the
This is all in the show. I'm not editing this.
Yeah, no, don't edit
Or
this
sorry,
at all.
the other Jonathan isn't editing this.
Yeah, exactly. The
John
mysterious
Cena.
person.
Jonathan
John
Manuel
Cena.
Cena.
Man, I can't believe we got John Cena to edit this podcast. You'd think he would be busy, and also he has, I mean, maybe he has tech skills. That's what was really the impressive thing about John Cena to me as a middle schooler. It was his can-do attitude. No matter how crazy it seemed, whether it was editing a podcast or body slamming a 500-pound dude, he was just like, I guess I got to do this now. And then he did it. And I really admired that,
Yeah, absolutely. He is a good representation to the world of what all Jonathans can be.
And the mascot of this podcast and the editor of this podcast.
Yeah. We're happy to, John, for when you get back to this, we're happy to have you, man.
Yeah. Hey, Jonathan, am I the asshole for missing an actual emergency because I turned off my phone to avoid my wife's unnecessary contact attempts during my tech-free weekend?
I'm just going to say yes. 10 out of 10. Vehicular manslaughter.
Oh, buddy. Okay.
Let's hear the story. I jumped the gun.
My best friend, who is 31-year-old male, and I, who is a 27-year-old male, have a tradition of taking a yearly weekend trip together that's phone-free. We've been doing this for a decade now. These weekend trips consist of us staying in a suite and exploring the city, not traversing the wilderness, so it's not like we're completely disconnected. Still, we like to keep one on hand and for navigation and emergency purposes. I assume they mean phone. And it would usually be friend's phone that we brought along. Brendan and I left for a trip this year 2 Fridays ago to make use of the long weekend. This was the first time I've gone on one of these trips since my wife and I moved in together, got engaged, or got married. However, we were dating for the last 2 years worth of trips, 2021 and 2022. Thank you for clarifying what the last 2 years is, original poster. And she seemed fine during that time. I would just tell her I was going to be busy for the weekend and she'd leave me alone. I understand that there are different expectations once you get married, but I didn't expect for the 180 in behavior. My wife all but demanded I take my phone as well in case she needed to get a hold of me, despite her having friend's number. I let her know I had arrived, and immediately after that, she was texting me and asking me how things were. Then again, asking me another question. No, okay. Then, again, asking me another question when I didn't respond to the first one. I eventually muted our text conversation because I was sick of the phone buzzing. She called me a few hours later and asked why I wasn't responding to her texts. I reiterated that this was supposed to be a no phone weekend and kept the call short, despite her trying to drag out the conversation. She called me once more after this. When I answered and found out it wasn't an emergency, I simply turned off my phone. The calls then started coming in for my friend, and he followed suit. We spent the rest of the weekend with our phones off until the drive back on Monday. I called my wife and informed her when we were about 30 minutes away from my place, and she was furious. She said that there ended up being an emergency. Her sister got into a car accident that won't affect her long term, but still resulted in broken bones, and that I had just ignored her the entire time when she, quote, needed me. I told her that I was very sorry to hear about her sister, but it wasn't my fault. She had essentially forced my hand into cutting off means of communication. She went to stay with a friend before I arrived home that night and has since come home, but she's still fuming. Am I the asshole? Wowza.
This gives me like Boy That Cried Wolf vibes in a weird, like, terrible way.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Jonathan, I'm glad I don't have to. Yeah, you can fucking do it. Good luck. What are they the asshole?
So
That's a toughie.
it is a toughie. So let's break down in a short form what happened. Let's re-synopsize this. That's a
two sentence
that's a
summary.
professional term.
Sure. So to encapsulate the story,
nice.
Basically, this person goes on a trip. The idea of the trip is to be cut off from communication as much as possible, but you keep the phone on for emergencies. The wife kept on messaging their husband, and eventually the husband reacted by turning off their phone. When they eventually did have an emergency, they couldn't contact their husband, and the husband found out about it at the end of the trip, and the wife is mad for having no way to communicate communicate with their husband. How's that? Other than the stammering, how was that?
No, it was great. And then the reason they were upset about the communication is that as like during that time that the phone was totally off,
Yeah,
the wife's sister got into a car accident that didn't affect her long term, but still resulted in broken bones, which is a pretty scary experience.
Scary.
That's still a big car accident if it resulted in broken bones.
100%. Yeah, that's a scary time.
I think the original poster is an asshole, and I'm gonna say probably around. It's always saying they're the asshole. That's easy. Putting the number on it.
Well, that's what it is. Right?
Oh,
It's easy for us to show up and be like, yeah, but like, vehicular manslaughter is not the same as like not texting your wife back.
Yeah, I'd put it at around a 6 because I think.
Wow.
I think you could literally just say, like, if they're calling, hey, I'm at this place, I'm safe, we're having fun, please don't bother if there's not an emergency. Like, shutting off the phone removes your ability to handle an emergency. And the only reason, and original poster wrote there in their story, we still like to keep one on hand for navigation and emergency purposes. That's the purpose. So you can literally have a reminder that that's what that phone is there for, and move along. There's no talk here about having like a conversation about like, hey, like I know we're married now, I know things feel a bit different, but it's really important that I have this trip where I'm off the grid. Please don't bother me unless it's an emergency. And here it's like this back and forth where it's like wife is calling, like, and angrily hanging up, and then all of that, and they remove themselves from the ability to like be there if something actually happened, when they knew at the beginning that they bring the phone for emergency purposes. Had they not said that, I would say like maybe a 4, but that's the point of it. So just reinforce and reiterate and reaffirm that that's what the point of the phone is. Now, I don't think it's their fault that the person got in a car accident. I'm not saying like anything like that at all. Shit happens. That's just like, and here is a place where shit happened. But I think there could have been more room to just say like, hey, I have a problem with you doing this. Should we take 10 minutes to talk about that? And then just keep the phone on. Unpopular opinion with John.
Yeah, hard disagree. Disagree.
Go for it, please.
Hard disagree. I absolutely think that the husband is not in the wrong here, and for a few reasons. One, I think on a very simple, like taking the story at face value level, there were multiple attempts to contact the husband. The husband made it clear what the point of the weekend was and reiterated it, and then cut off communication. It's like 2 phone calls and several texts later, it's very clear, like, just for the next few days, I am trying to do a thing. I would like you to respect the distance. And when the wife doesn't respect that, he makes a choice to just, remove himself from the situation and turn off the phone. There were consequences to that, but I don't think the consequences belong to the husband. I think it belongs to the wife for not it's a consequence of not respecting what your partner is telling you. Now, from the another point of view, I would say is that for most of human history, you couldn't do this. Like, until cell phones were widely available, you couldn't just casually contact someone. You had to basically time out a phone call and hope for the best that the person was
like at a payphone or something in this situation.
Yeah, exactly. And or like send a fucking telegram, like depending on what decade we're in.
And I know it's Am I the Asshole, but watch your fucking language.
And the expectation now is that you should be available at all times in case of emergency, quote unquote. But I think that psychologically, that's very damaging. It's very damaging to always have to be available, because I think it's not a very reasonable thing to be. I think that you are partially disengaged in your life if you are always keeping a part of your brain on your cell phone. This is an anti-cell phone rhetoric. I'm just saying that if you can choose to have times where you are disconnected, you should be able to be disconnected. Will it mean that you cannot respond to emergencies? Yes, but that means that there should be fail safes, just like there were fail safes and backups and other plans and other ways to deal with emergencies back before we had cell phones. It was already a thing, and then it just went away because our first line of contact became more immediate and more convenient to reach. So I don't think that this guy is being an asshole, because I think that not only is the expectation unreasonable to always be available on your phone, and I know that's probably going to be the actual unpopular opinion of this one, but also, I don't know, very clearly stated I not to talk to him for the course of the trip unless you needed to, and if it wasn't an emergency, then you boy who cried wolf. This is literally what the boy who cried wolf is about, more or less.
Yeah, all about cell phones.
Yeah, it's all about cell phones and your wife calling you.
So
Basically.
it's interesting, and I think this is an important thing to point out, which is that depending on our assumptions about the wife, we could actually point this in a couple different directions. Let me make up a bit of a story that would give you kind of where I made my initial assumptions. So let's say the wife is a really, really anxious person, and the husband said, I have the phone available for emergencies. As an anxious person, like me talking for myself, if that's what somebody said, I would probably check to see if they're going to pick up just in case there was an emergency or something like that. And not
So
saying
that's
that's
one phone call. Now we have one phone call justified.
But we also don't know what happened in the conversations with those phone calls. True. So now I'm not saying you're like I do like that is how I hear it. So like for me, and like this is always what we're gonna do when we're coaching and what we're doing everything, which is we're asking questions, because even though this is actually like a fairly long post or fairly long entry, there are some things here that could like drastically change the story.
100%. What were the nature of the original phone calls and texts is a big one.
Yeah, you got to put on your like the detective Sherlock Holmes hat with like the floppy ears and your magnifying glass and do that. But considering we've grown up together for so long and saw the WrestleMania event with John Cena, I'm surprised we ended up on different sides. That you would think we'd have the exact same opinion. You know,
it's funny because I too have anxiety, and my reaction to my anxiety is to overcorrect the opposite direction. So, if I'm anxious that I'm going to be late, I show up super duper early.
Yep.
And in this case, if I'm anxious that the person won't reach out to me, I just they're dead for that weekend. They don't exist. I have every other resource turned up to 11, because that person, for the time that they wanted to be alone, stops existing in the real world to me. And so it's very funny, because I think in a big way, it's also this falls along the lines of how we react to our given anxieties.
Yeah. So those are the questions we'd want to ask. And for those of you listening at home, you decide who is right, Jonathan or Jonathan. We'll put up an Instagram poll where we both have the same name. We won't know exactly what your opinion is,
but we'll both feel good at the end, or bad.
And all that matters is that we feel good.
Yeah, right? Exactly. This is about us. This is only about us.
This is only about us.
We're the real assholes here.
Yes. And if you're interested in listening to more episodes of Am I the Bleep, where we read posts from Am I the Asshole and share our sometimes unified and sometimes not so unified, bona fide opinions, you can check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're on YouTube now.
Vine,
Vine.
Vine,
Vine was shut down.
Wretch, Wretch, Yahoo 360 degrees. I think that's how you read that. We're on all of it.
And every single week, I live stream doing a similar thing, but with less Jonathan energy on the show. And also, I post Am I the Asshole readings every single day on TikTok. So follow us there, Jonathan Freeman 1993. Although pretty soon, I'm pretty sure I'm going to rename it to Am I the Bleep?
Yeah.
And Instagram, Journal That Talks Back. Facebook, Journal That Talks Back. And if you see us on Tinder, swipe right. We're not on Tinder. And also, if you or someone you know is looking for coaching that is super affordable, super unlimited, and done in a super accessible way, check out the journalthattalksback.com. There's a free intake call where I'll hear you out. If it's a good fit for you, I'll match you with one of the fantastic coaches who are on our team. And if it's not a good fit, I'll help you find the resource that you need as well. And that call's super free. So go to the journalthattalksback.com and click that get started button. But until then, until the time where there are more assholes, more bleeps on the interweb, we will see you next time.
And we're just gonna wrap up with our
I didn't mean to shut you down, man.
Yeah, I mean, I saved it. I saved it because we're gonna close it out with a quote to grow on to help us, really examine our lives and become better people. And this week the quote is, "The greatest glory in living lies not in never failing, but in rising every time we're the asshole."